Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious Anonymous. Welcome to the Twin Peaks Thought of the Day video for Tuesday, May 16th, 2017. My guest today is renowned YouTube documentary film thesis maker. He's been praised today by the film school rejects. You know him, you love him. Lost in the movies, Joel Bocko. How's it going?
Hey, great to be on.
Super happy to have you here. This is a big week. I mean,
Yes.
we have 5 days.
The last week we will ever be in this state of Twin Peaks. Somebody said that earlier. It was like, yeah, like we're never gonna be at this point where the finale and the movie are the last things, and we don't know what's on the horizon other than a few images. So I kind of almost have to enjoy it for a moment, but I think everyone's mind is on the future, so we're not really.
Well, the thing that's really insane is that for 25 years, so many fans have been able to kind of come up with their own idea about what happens next, and now we're going to get a definitive what happened next.
Yeah.
And that's going to, I think, make a lot of people happy. And I think it's going to drive a lot of people insane. And hopefully, it will all be all right in the end. Because I've been telling people all this week that even if we see these first 4 episodes that drop Sunday, even if we're like, oh, I don't know if I like this, just stick with it, because maybe by hour 13, hour 14, it all comes together and just blows our mind. I mean, we won't know until we see the whole thing, don't you think?
Especially with this, because of the whole one big movie thing.
Right.
Interesting. Like, there's a few precedents, I guess, which I haven't seen, but I mean, obviously True Detective's kind of one, but even True Detective was written as episodes. You can tell there's like the beats of like, this episode ends here, this one. I think maybe the Soderbergh thing, that was at the Knack or whatever, which I didn't see, that was all directed by one person. But like, point being, there's not that many things that were shot all out. And actually, True Detective was shot out of order, because they did the they did the 95 stuff, and then they did the 2012 stuff separately, like as if, so they didn't shoot it by episode. But I mean, the fact that it's Lynch, obviously, and just the fact that, I mean, there's so much, 18 hours, and I think they didn't even know how they were going to divide it up until.
Well, yeah, that's the exciting part, was that it was written as one thing.
Yeah.
And then they decided in the editing room how they were going to edit it, which honestly, I was a little surprised that we still came down to 18 hours, because I was hoping we would have one episode be 33 minutes and another episode be an hour and 20,
Now, the weirdest part of this, though, is, so there's all of that. So from that, we would expect this to be like one of the most sort of continuous type of shows ever. But I've been told that apparently David Lynch said you can watch the episodes out of order and they'll still like make sense or something like that.
So they're standalone episodes?
I almost wonder if maybe it's like Inland. I mean, I know people hate to hear that, but if it's like Inland Empire, in the sense that you could probably cut Inland Empire in a complete, like you could take every single scene and cut it in a different order, and it would still kind of work similarly, So I'm wondering if it's just going to jump around a lot in time and place, to the point where, yes, it is put in a certain order that works, but you could rearrange it and it would still work, because you're not going in a straight line, either chronologically or whatever. That's the only thing I can think of, because I do think it's going to be, I don't think they're going to be standalone episodes in the sense of beginning, middle, end from one spot to the other. I think they're going to be more like almost standalone scenes, maybe. I mean, I think there'll be more of a story than that. It's got Mark Frost involved and all of that. But yeah, I think it's going to be. Now you're definitely in it.
Let me throw out this question then before we get started. Do you think that Cooper will be a main focus right from the start, or do you think we're going to get little bits and pieces building up to Agent Cooper, and then around episode 4, episode 5, he kind of comes into his own, and then we follow him? Do you think there's going to be a big buildup to his character, or do you think, scene 1 we see Cooper?
It's a good question.
I almost think that Lynch is going to build up to him like the way he showed John Merrick in The Elephant Man. A lot of teases,
Yeah,
and
I
then
like that. That's a
and
good
then
comparison.
so
Or even, I mean, they kind of did that with Laura Palmer and Fire Walk with Me. Not a lot of teasers, but certainly a long delay before you see them. Yeah, I do think I think I said it's almost going to be like, you know, Force Awakens. You see Luke Skywalker in the last minute or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a journey to Cooper, and then a journey to Twin Peaks, sort of in a longer. I don't. One thing I if I was going to make a wager, I'd say we don't see Twin Peaks until, and others have said this too, until at least the end of the first episode. Maybe I would almost say maybe not for several episodes, and then I don't think we're gonna spend. I would not be shocked if less than half of the show takes place inside of Twin Peaks.
well, it would make sense considering they didn't shoot there all that long.
Yeah, that's true. Although they could have shot sets and stuff.
Well, true, but I'm just saying they were only there about 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I'm not expecting the majority of it to take place in Twin Peaks. I do think Cooper will be on screen a lot. I think he'll be, but I think I said when I first were coming out with it, people were trying to figure out where they're going to go. I was thinking maybe there's like a character, and it seems like it would be Tamara Preston from your favorite book, who will be sort of leading us to Cooper, like sort of fresh eyes, almost sort of for the new viewer of like, you know,
Sure.
this guy. Cooper. It's like the old Orson Welles story about Mr. Wu, where the whole first act they're talking, Mr. Wu's coming, Mr. Wu. And nobody, you know, and finally at the end they go, it's Mr. Wu, and an actor walks on across the bridge onto the stage, and the curtain falls, and the audience goes out to the intermission. They go, God, that actor who played Mr. Wu was amazing. It's just, he was so good, because they're all, you know, we're hyped up so much about the character. So I could see them doing that with Cooper for sure.
Now you like to tease me about my reaction to Mark Frost's book, The Secret History of Twin Peaks. But when it came out that there's going to be this new book, The Final Dossier, I was super excited about it, because I believe that this book will be what they promised us, what the first book was going to be.
Exactly. I think he found out he couldn't really write it. Just it didn't work to do that before the show aired.
Either that, or Lynch said, we're not tipping our hand until after the show.
Yeah, that's almost kind of what I mean. I think Lynch said, like, Mark, can you hold off on this book?
Yeah. You know that history book you were writing? Can you adapt that into a little Twin Peaks?
Exactly. Take this and put that there.
Exactly. All right. Well,
I would love to ever see if the Goddess screenplay goes online, but I feel like it never really got circulated the way like Ronnie Rocket did or something.
Right.
I'd love to read that and see what that was all about.
So, all right. Well, let's get to this, because I have some other questions for you, but for some reason I just completely spaced on them. But let's get to the big news of today. There's actually a couple of things that happened today. One is we have this amazing new picture.
Okay, I haven't seen this yet.
Okay, I'm going to talk. Let's see if I can get this focused a little bit. There we go.
Oh my God, he's got the same
Ben Horn
ornament and everything.
Yeah, I don't know who Ben Horn is talking to, but there he is sitting at his desk. And frankly, I was a little shocked when I saw this picture, because I was honestly expecting at this point that Audrey would be running the hotel. That's just my opinion.
That could be Audrey in the chair.
I don't know. Audrey looks a little.
I don't think so.
Old. No, she's old. She's got gray hair.
I mean, she doesn't look like Sherilyn Fenn actually looks, but I'm saying maybe that was partly, you know, the sticking point when she was not, you know, it was like, okay, and Audrey, you know, aged all this much and she's in a wheelchair or whatever. I don't think it's Audrey. I'm just throwing it out there.
The bomb.
You said Jacoby, right? You thought?
Well, no. That's the next picture. The next picture is Dr. Jacoby.
Huh.
Well, look at that.
The hair, he looks the same.
He does, and he's got the glasses still.
Yeah.
And so my question to you about this is, I mean, you've seen some other pictures, and you've seen the Norma and Shelley in the diner. So my question to you is, do you think, because you are I know you've spent a lot of time going into the theories and of, you know, Cooper and the Black Lodge and all that with Fire Walk with Me. Do you think that when Cooper went into the Black Lodge, or the waiting room or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
Do you think that for 25 years, Twin Peaks has basically come to a pause where people haven't been allowed to move past their station in life? Because everybody seems like they're exactly where they were.
I hope not. I don't think that would be that interesting to me.
Because
I'd rather see
Peggy Lipton. I mean, Peggy Lipton said, "Don't be surprised if people haven't advanced further in life than you wanted them to." And I'm like, really? Could that be something having to do with Mark Frost's book in terms of, just the way the planets are aligned? And I don't know.
Well, it makes me. I mean, especially seeing that picture of Ben, it makes me wonder if it's going to be sort of the opposite of what a lot of people thought it was going to be. Which is this idea that Twin Peaks has changed a lot. And I actually kind of like that idea. I mean, for me, it's always, I'm not that big on going back to things just for nostalgia's sake. I feel like the thing is there. You don't need to kind of so I would have been really intrigued by the idea of like Twin Peaks as this kind of like boutique gentrified town where, it's all very touristy now, and you sort of lost some of the magic, but some of the same people live there, but maybe they can't afford it and they live in like Fat Trout or something like it. Like that could have been interesting. I mean, I'm going to accept, I'm going to roll with whatever they give us. But that picture kind of does make me wonder if it is going to be more like, no, Twin Peaks is the place that has stayed the same, and that's kind of part of the draw. And maybe that's going to be a contrast where if we don't see Twin Peaks that much, it'll be like we spend time in these weird places, do these weird things, and then we come back to Twin Peaks. It's like, oh, there's still this little bubble, sort of. What's the line Truman says? Separate from the world or whatever.
Right.
And that still kind of exists, which that kind of brings the question of how that's going to play into the narrative. Then, so in a way, I'm almost more intrigued now about what the relationship between Twin Peaks the show and Twin Peaks the town is going to be this time, because last time you didn't even really need to ask the question. The whole show, other than Evelyn Marsh, took place in Twin Peaks, so it was like natural. The two things went together hand in hand. Now it's that's not however the percentage is, that's not going to be the case. So what is the significance of the town of Twin Peaks to the larger story being told? So that's going to be interesting.
Now, we've gotten 2 new quasi trailers of Twin Peaks: The Phenomenon that Showtime dropped. I noticed that you wrote in the comments section on one of them, I think it was number 2, maybe 3.
Last one, I think.
Yeah, last one.
I watched them all.
And you said, I find it very interesting that these videos completely skipped over Fire Walk With Me, especially since Lynch has maintained that Fire Walk With Me is a crucial element into understanding the new season.
That wouldn't have been surprising at all like 4 or 5 years ago. It would have been like, oh, of course, that's what people do. Now it's a little surprising just because it has come back into the discussion. Even today there was a piece, Entertainment Weekly, that was criticizing Fire Walk With Me, but even that was saying, oh, well, it's still relevant and it's going to be important to the show. So it's kind of, especially with Lynch pushing that forward. I was kind of surprised they got away almost with not talking about Fire Walk With Me.
I think they didn't want to talk all depressing about what happened, to that.
Well, man, it makes me wonder. Did you now? Okay, now that's a little too spoilery, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this though before you ask me that.
Okay.
what is canon? Okay, this is what I want to know.
Yeah.
And let me throw this out to you.
Yeah.
Is James Hurley calling Laura canon in Fire Walk With Me? Because in the show, it's Leland calling from Ben Horn's office that calls Laura.
I feel like they could both call though, because I mean, does Sarah?
Sarah says the phone rings once.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess if we're gonna judge things like that, it would. If we had to judge things like that, I think probably I'd go with what we see over what we hear secondhand, because maybe she could have forgot the second call or something. Whereas if we actually see the person call, but it almost feels like with Lynch and Frost, but especially Lynch, you almost can't especially with I feel like the new Twin Peaks definitely is going to do something with time and space and continuity that is just going to make the concept of canon kind of full of holes, you know, like we won't be able to apply it.
But do you think the Mark Frost book, though, the fact that it kind of negated some of the stuff we knew as canon, do you think that was, obviously it was done on purpose, but do you think we'll have an answer as to why that book was written that way? Or do you think that was just another way of just screwing up with canon?
I feel like if we get any answers, they're going to be in his book and not on the show. They're going to be in the second book. I don't see the secret history paying off in the series. His sensibility in how he wrote it and just in general, just too different from what I would see Lynch wanting to include, that I just don't. And plus, I think he wrote it after, you know, it seems like he kind of wrote it after well, definitely after the screenplays, but also after it was shot. And so, yeah, I think maybe he had it in his mind, well, I'm allowed to mess with canon because we already did that.
Right.
But I was just thinking recently, and it hasn't been one I've heard it mentioned, but I feel like it's been sort of ignored more for like Norma's mother and all of that stuff, is the Major Briggs stuff. Because I've been doing these character studies on my blog, and I just did a big one on him. And I reread that part of Secret History immediately after watching some of the clips from late in the series. And it's like, that's really can't be compatible at all. Like they compress and sort of streamline the story so much. It's like he goes on his fishing trip with Cooper. He gets abducted. And when he comes back, Cooper's gone to the Black Lodge. That's pretty much how it reads. So there's no time where he's joining the Wyndham Earle investigation and all of this stuff. Maybe I'm misremembering, but
in the show,
in the book.
Okay, because I remember in the show he came back with that like World War I outfit and stuff like that.
10 episodes, and then he goes to the sheriff's station every 2 episodes and passes out, and people come to get him, and then he says he's going to join. Then when the big thing was that Wyndham Earle kidnaps him, drugs him over the haloperidol, he comes back to the station, he's babbling and all of that. And then another big thing is Sarah Palmer comes into the diner and says, I'm in the Black Lodge with Dale Cooper. None of that's in the book. The book is he comes back from his abduction in the woods, and Cooper's like already gone to the Black Lodge. So it's just like they cut out that whole swath of the second half of the series and just boom, like cut right to like.
What about the theory? What about the theory that's going on out there, saying that the book is designed by killing off Norma's mom and Hank and all that, and the fact that you're saying the Major Briggs comes back and Cooper's already in the lodge, what is being erased? Annie Blackburn is being erased, right?
It's got to be on purpose. There's got to be something with Annie. I'm not content with this idea that they retconned her out. That just doesn't seem right.
You know what, though? If they wanted to retcon her out, Lynch would not have put her in Laura's bed.
Yeah, I mean, we could say he's changed his mind now, but that doesn't seem. He doesn't change his mind about stuff like that. Like he always kind of keeps it rooted in certain things and comes to like bringing Renette back in the finale and stuff. Yeah, I don't see him suddenly being like, yeah, actually, Andy's not there. And so people have thought maybe Heather Graham was lying or something. Let me get these things off.
I sure hope she was, because I mean, she can show up. If she can show up in Flowers in the Attic series, she can show up in Twin Peaks. Okay.
Yeah, it just done. And of course, if she isn't, if that opens the door, it's Chris Isaak in it. Is
David Bowie showing up?
Yeah, I mean, they had a little window there. What were the other big ones? Josie and Catherine, you know, both of them there was an interview with both of them. They said, well, we were disappointed. One of them even said, which almost makes me more suspicious, they tried to find a way and they just couldn't find it or something.
Well, I did an interview with Piper Laurie and she said she wanted to come back.
Exactly. And in this interview, both of them said, both Joan Chen and Piper Laurie said, oh, we want to come. And the Josie thing is, that was always such a disappointing character because it was a Lynchian character to begin with. And she was the first one we saw on the show. And it just didn't get like kind of the arc and the delivery. It was very muddled. And then of course they put her in the draw pool. And it's like, Lynch even though he talks about open-ended stuff, he likes things to be, if not complete, like fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And Cooper got fulfilled and is going to get more fulfilled. Laura got fulfilled. Josie never really got fulfilled. And so I feel like part of him, and he kept trying to too. Like he had her legs sticking out of the Black Lodge and the on the set. He had they were talking about Judy being her sister or something, and so it's like she was always there. And he brought her in for that little scene, with Del Nibbler and Pete. So yeah, if we're opening the door for characters to show up who weren't on the cast list, I think both of them. And also Catherine she never got closure on the show. Her last line is she says, we're gonna put this in the safe, in the cake saver, and then she's gone. It's like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. Like, she was one of the big characters on the show. We never got a final moment with her, really, like we do.
See, I'm a big fan of Isabella Rossellini, but I'm kind of glad they went. Oh, we're getting some feedback here. I'm glad they went with Joan Chen as Josie Packard as opposed to I forgot what Giovanna Packard, I think her name was going to be. Considering that her and Lynch kind of broke up during that time, I'm kind of glad that she didn't get the part, because I thought that Joan Chen and Jack Nance had such wonderful chemistry together.
Yeah, that's a good point. That doesn't get talked about that much. That's almost kind of her best material is with Jack Nance, really. I think those are the moments where she's, even though it's kind of an act, but those are the moments where she kind of has like almost a personality. Like the rest of it, it's like they don't really give her a personality because they're too busy making up all these fake. I like her scene with Hank, but that's more because of Hank than her. Really, she's kind of the one that's being put upon or whatever.
And I'm convinced. I know I've been saying this throughout the week, but I got Joel here. I'm convinced Chris Mulkey is in this show. I don't care what that cast list says.
Well, they killed him off though.
Yeah, but half the stuff in Mark Frost's book is wrong.
Well, yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. That's
here's my reason for thinking. He goes to jail for 25 years at the end, so that links up. Also, he's one of those actors that is always at the Twin Peaks festivals. He engages with fans. I would just
friends with Mark Frost and all of them.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he didn't at least pop in for a scene and
I'm going to predict that these actors aren't in it, but I won't be surprised, and I'll be pleased if they are. But I think I'm maybe like just a bit, like maybe 55% that they won't be, if I have to guess. I do think so. If that's the case, I think it will be that it just, they're really, the story they want to tell is Cooper. Unlike Fire Walk with Me, they can have room for all these other stuff, and they can actually make it not just a goofy scene at the lumberyard, but they can give them a little bit of a story or a pointed scene in certain episodes. So they have room to do that, but they just, they weren't going to bring every single last person back, because really it was more about Cooper and maybe a little bit what's happened to the town, and so they're not looking to sort of follow through on everything. That's my hunch or my
if Chris Isaak is not in this, will they still deal with Chet Desmond? Will they still even mention Chet Desmond?
Well, I think I heard on a podcast or something, Brad Dukes was saying he looked at his touring schedule, Chris Isaak's touring schedule, and he had like a month off right when they were shooting in LA. So there may be a chance that he kept it hidden. And that's a character you would, if you're going to keep anybody hidden, you'd keep that hidden. So that makes sense. Yeah.
So I know you do a lot of stuff with Twin Peaks and Fire Walk with Me. So let me throw this out to you.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Lynch loves Cheryl Lee.
Mm-hmm.
We know he loves the character of Laura Palmer. He when he did Fire Walk with Me, people were so upset that he went back to the Laura Palmer thing as opposed to moving forward.
Right.
And now he's saying, this again is going to have to do with Laura Palmer. And of course, now at 25 years later, people are just like, yep, hooray. I'm so happy he's going to do Laura Palmer again in Twin Peaks.
Right.
So what do you think? All right, this is my crazy theory. I know I'm wrong, but I just want to throw it your way and see what you think. I think that the show is heading towards, if you look at Blue Velvet, happy ending. If you look at Wild at Heart, happy ending, even though the book does not end happy. He changed it to have a happy ending. He wanted Sailor and Lula to be together.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I really do think this show is heading towards the resurrection of Laura Palmer. They're going to pull her out of the lodge and they're going to deliver her home to Sarah. So when Sarah wakes up in the morning and says, Laura, even older, will come down the stairs and be with her at breakfast as Cooper drives out of town. I think that's where we're heading. I think the redemption of Agent Cooper and the resurrection of Laura Palmer. Am I crazy?
I think that's the right idea. I don't know if it'll happen exactly like that.
No, but what I'm saying, though, is because Frost is such a literal person, I can see him wanting to have some sort of literal basis for Lynch to kind of bounce off of.
And the closure of the idea of, like, coming back to that beginning. I mean, I have to see how it plays out. I kind of like the idea. Although I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what role Sarah Palmer plays. They got the shot of her. I did see that. I was avoiding the trailers. Not avoiding, but I wasn't looking for them.
Oh, they say nothing.
Popped up. Yeah, as she was shopping for wine, and pretty much what we got, the sense we got from the Between Two Worlds. No, I mean, can we talk about possible spoilers or?
I'm assuming if people are watching, they're kind of a little bit in the know, but
This is from the 2015 when they had, which I still maintain they wanted to be seen. Lynch and Frost. So what I'm referring to, you can skip ahead a minute or something, or if you don't want to hear it, but is the 2015 photos that they put up on TMZ or whatever, where it was like Kyle MacLachlan leading Cheryl Lee up through the neighborhood, up to the house. And I feel like I read something back then too about that there was like the yard had stuff strewn all over it, was made to look really, and then they like cleaned it all up and shot another thing with it like cleaned up or something, which definitely makes me think either you're seeing it and then skipping ahead a few years, or there's a weird alternate universes thing going on.
Right. And then
I feel like they wanted us to see that because they shot it in front of an open crowd, knowing people were obviously going to have cameras out.
Right.
It could just be a red herring. It could have been like, let's just shoot this at the end of our production just to have for fun to get people talking.
Well, there was strange things too, because
she's coming out into the real world somehow. Maybe there'll be a character who's like the
third cousin.
I don't think it'll be the third cousin, but I think it'll be like what's her name, Patricia Arquette in Lost Highway, or Naomi Watts in Mulholland Drive, where it's like, wait, these are two different people, but they're kind of the same person. What's going on? Like they find this woman who's kind of like Laura, and because it's Mark Frost again, maybe they'll be like, "Are you Laura Palmer?" Like he does in the Red Room. Let's
take that scene a step further. Yeah. Reports from the set said when they went in the house, they heard screams.
Did they hear him in the house or when she was walking up?
They said inside the house.
Okay. Because there was one thing where they said you see a shadow or something move and she screams outside. But then, I seem to remember that there was like, and then they go inside and there's.
You know what that reminds me of? The beginning of episode 15 when you hear Madeline scream from outside the house.
Yeah.
And God, I'm such a nerd for knowing that. episode 15.
We were just talking about that before we started recording, how it's like, it's episode 15. Now Netflix says it's episode 16.
Right. But there's the other shot, though, with Cooper and Shirley on the sidewalk before they go up to the house. And I don't know if it's a crew member or not, but it looks like there's a little hobgoblin, like from Phantasm, running around like underneath the bushes and stuff. So that's really freaky because I don't know who the hell that is. But yeah,
there's gonna be so much cool, freaky, creepy stuff in this. It's gonna be great.
Exactly.
On the dumpster mystery man type stuff.
But I maintain that I don't think this series is heading towards Cooper being chased by little elderly people and then he blows his head off on a pillow. I don't think that they're gonna end Cooper like that kind of dark Inland Empire.
Well, Inland Empire even had, after they kill her, then it's a movie set and then she walks off, and that has basically a happy ending where the girl is released and she disappears and all the light, and Grace Zabriskie sitting on the couch smiling. So even that one kind of went back to some of his earlier films in the sense of having a redemptive, and I mean even Firewalk with Me, you get that redemptive for Laura at least. So yeah, I would not be surprised at all if there's some sort of ending like that.
The fact that Variety magazine published photos of Kyle, Laura Dern, and David Lynch together, That kind of says to me that Laura Dern's a pretty big part in this.
I think so. I think she's Diane. I think that's a good way to end the mystery of the character. A lot of people don't want them to, and I can kind of get that. But if you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it.
Hey, listen. In 1990, my friends and I, we always assumed Diane was Laura Dern.
Yeah, I remember.
But at the time, movie stars never went to TV.
Yeah.
So we knew that wasn't really going to happen. But so it just kind of made sense. Now, some people out there are convinced, and this is kind of funny, and this would I can't see Lynch doing this, but this would be awesome if Naomi Watts was Diane, because then that would tie into Mulholland Drive.
Oh God, yeah. Wow. Yeah, that would be pretty meta.
Yeah.
I think now someone was saying Amy Shields is going to be Tamara Preston because she read her at like one of the readings or something. But then I heard other people saying, "Oh no, they think Naomi Watts would be." I mean,
who is the woman in the trailer that says "Try me"? Is that Amy Shields?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know if I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one, the It's Happening Again trailer. Well, one with Miguel Ferrer and David Lynch in it.
Yeah, I might not have seen that one actually because I haven't.
Oh, you need to see that one.
I mean, I kind of like not seeing them though too. Like
it's 50 seconds long.
So I watched them. I'm like, if it's gonna pop up, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
But part of me has gotten to the point where I'm ready to just kind of see it.
It tells you nothing, but
I know.
It definitely
is going to be fun. Like I'm at the point where if something presents itself, like if you show me the picture, it's like I want to see that, but I'm not going to seek stuff out. So if it comes to me, great. If it doesn't, it'll be more the surprise. By the way, the person in the picture almost looked like Michael Horst, but since he wasn't in the unit because of he's got the long gray hair now.
Right.
It didn't. He isn't dressed right, so I feel like it's not him.
Just so you know, the Try Me girl is an actress named Madeline Zima.
God, there's so many people in this cast.
I know, and I'm still convinced that we have not seen everybody that's going to be in it.
Yeah. You think Michael Cera will be Lucy and Andy's kid?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it kind of makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. Maybe too much sense. Maybe that's the problem, but that's such a gimme, you know.
Well, what I was shocked about, and I guess you haven't seen it, is in this trailer for It's Happening Again. We see Shelley at the Roadhouse real quickly with like 3 other women friends, and it's so shocking to see Shelley hanging out with someone other than Norma and Leo and Bobby. You know?
Well, on the show, there's like 2 or 3 scenes maybe where she's with Donna, and that feels shocking. It's like, oh yeah, she's got got a normal like teenage friend because she probably is not much older or even the same age. She married at 16 or something, dropped out of school. So it's like, yeah. So that's it's gonna be fun catching up. That's gonna be sort of like one of. I mean, in terms of story beats, those are probably going to be quote unquote minor things, but that's going to be really like.
But it's part of the look and the feel and the texture.
Yeah, the texture of it. Of like catching, like that's the part of the quote unquote nostalgia I don't mind. Of like, actually finding out new things about like old friends. That's going to be fun. I think. I kind of hope that they're not just where we left them, though. That would not be as interesting to me. I think you said, was it you who always said it's like, oh, was it? No, actually, I think it was somebody online saying they wanted to be like, and I don't want this, but I like part of the idea. It said like this should be like season 25 of Twin Peaks. Like there's been all these other seasons we didn't see, and now we just slide into the new story. I mean, I don't totally agree because that would almost make it sound a little mundane. But in terms of catching up with people and they've had all this water under the bridge, that I like. I'm hoping that they're not just where we left them.
So let me ask you this question. So Sunday, 2 episodes air on TV. 4 episodes will drop entirely online. Then there will be 2 weeks off before we get another new episode. So my question to you is this. They always said if season 3 had happened in 1991, Cooper would have gotten out of the lodge fairly fast. I don't know what that means, but okay, fairly fast. So if 4 episodes drop that Sunday and we got to wait 2 weeks, that says to me the 4th episode has an awesome cliffhanger to make you wait. So my question to you is, does Cooper, in your mind, just speculating, do you think Cooper gets out of the lodge early and he's got to track down this doppelganger Cooper, or do you think that doesn't happen till later in the series?
It's hard for me to imagine him doing that for a couple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is because, and this I put up a post a long time ago, I think, saying it was like a list of like questions about Cooper, because it's like there's all these things to consider. Now that we have to follow up from where we left off, there's all these things that like maybe we took for granted, but it's like, can both versions of Coop exist simultaneously in the physical world? Or is one only released when the other is inside? Can there be a struggle on the surface of the character, like there seemed to be with like Leland or somebody? Or is it just like, oh no, this is absolutely period, only evil Coop until the other Coop gets out of the lodge? Like there's just so many things that are ambiguous, but it's hard for me to imagine 2 Coops out in the physical world kind of chasing each other. Just, I don't know. It doesn't.
No, but do you think Good Cooper gets out of the lodge early in this series, or do you think they're going to hold off on
if he
that?
gets out, though, I think something happens to the doppelganger. So that's why I say it's hard for me to imagine him getting out, because that means that that storyline, it seems like that storyline would then be over. And I think that's going to carry through the whole way. So in that sense, to answer your question, a resolution, no, definitely not. I don't think, because the thing is, and Frost has even said this, he's like, we learned in season 2, like you need to have a clear path. Like you can have little tangents, but you got to have that clear path through the woods, and you got to stick to it all the way to the end. I think the problem with season 2, at least from that perspective, you can argue, it works as a soap opera type thing, but in terms of what they apparently want to do now, what I think Lynch always wanted to do, and Frost seems to have grown into, is you had this 22 episode thing where it was like, let's end this story, then let's start a new one. And then maybe after that, let's start a new one after that. And that doesn't seem to be the mode they're going into this with. I think it's going to be one, and that's the whole, it's one big movie thing. I think it's going to be one story from beginning to end. There'll be multiple things within that, but you can't end the story after 4, 15, or 10. It's got to go all the way to the end. So whatever whatever the resolution to Cooper's crisis is, I don't think it can come till the last hour of this series. So yeah, I don't think if they had gone through with that idea of like, which I don't think they could have even back then gotten away with that, because it's such a momentous thing. Like I've heard people be like, no, it's just a cliffhanger. Come the pilot, they'd resolve it, would be on to like Andy and Lucy's baby and stuff, like as the main story or something. It's like, no, I don't think even then you could pull off having the biggest twist of the entire series happen and then just resolve it an episode or 2 later and go on to something more mundane. It seems kind of silly. And I definitely don't think that'll be the case today. That's something you could maybe do on a network episodic show in the 90s, not on a cable show where people tune in for one big thing. You can't resolve Tony Soprano or Walter White's stories like 3rd season and come up with a whole new thing for the show to be about. Just doesn't work.
All right, so let's discuss the other thing that happened today, and that is we got more episode titles, which is very interesting to me because despite what the internet and Netflix tells you, season 1 and season 2 never had episode titles.
Right.
The gold box didn't carry them over. The Blu-ray sets didn't carry them over. But I
wonder why.
But for whatever, well, because they never were, canon. They were created for German television.
I wonder why they didn't come up with titles for the originals.
Because back then they didn't do that.
Some of them, I feel like it didn't like.
Maybe some of them, but
stuff like that.
But they thought of this as just one big story, so it was just like it was kind of like chapters.
This one even more supposedly.
Right. So now they are definitely creating titles, and I think that. Honestly, I think that's kind of a cable television kind of mandate for them. Can you come up with some titles, please? you know.
And also maybe an idea of like, we don't want the same thing to happen again where people make up titles we hate.
That could be it as well. So, all right, for those of you who don't know what the first titles were, I'm just going to go in order, and they've released the titles for the first 8 episodes.
Yeah, I haven't heard this yet, so this will be. I've heard the first 2 maybe.
Okay, so part 1, which airs this Sunday, is called "My Log Has a Message for You."
Really?
Yes.
That's the first episode title.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Right. I think that pretty much tells us where we're going.
Yeah, that's reveals way more than I thought it would. Okay.
Right. Well, the other thing is, and this is, let me just throw this out to you. I know you. I know I've been talking about this for a while, but again, I'm just kind of hyped up, and I got Joel here, so I just want to throw this out. When Lynch directed those Log Lady introductions, right, for the Bravo release, and then they were included on the gold box, and then they were included on the Blu-ray, and when they were on the Blu-ray, they went back and remastered them in HD.
Yes.
So obviously, he thought that they weren't just some throwaway puff thing that he did for Bravo. He liked them a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you think that since Catherine E. Coulson did shoot some stuff, it's my understanding that she didn't record a lot of footage with other actors. So I'm thinking they shot Log Lady introduction, so she is someone who's constant through this whole new series. Do you think they did that, or do you think she's just only in the diner for a couple moments?
I definitely don't think she's just in the diner for a couple moments. I think whatever role she plays will be important, but it may just be outside the narrative, like you said. And that was definitely one of my thoughts at the time, but sort of problematized by the fact that apparently they didn't know what the episodes would be yet. So he would have had to think in his mind, he would have had to commit to a certain extent. Because yes, her intros they're not like in this episode, other than the creamed corn one, maybe, you know.
Right. Well, I just thought that they would shoot like, I just assumed that he would write like 25 little monologues for her to do, and then they would just figure out which ones they wanted to use.
Yeah, but I feel like he would do it, because I heard her talking, I think at the USC talks or something. She said he went out into the woods and with I think maybe a cherry pie or something, something, and he meditated in the woods up in the Washington with a little list of the little descriptions of what happened in each episode to remind him. And then he wrote the introductions. So even though they're very abstract, they do seem to be based on whatever he was thinking by reading about the episodes. So in a sense, he would have to commit a little bit to this is going to be in this episode or this isn't, even before I divide it up. So that's why it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around that idea. I could see her maybe just introducing just the first one, just having one introduction at the very beginning and treating that as one long, last massive chapter. That wouldn't shock me, but I could also see her having at least one small scene in the film. I think there was a rumor she was spotted up there a week or two before she died, but there were rumors going around everywhere, so who knows what's
well, we are going to know in 5 days. I mean, that's
sorry, keep going with the episode titles, but
I know. I'm just saying in 5 days, all these speculative questions are going to be answered, and it's going to be amazing. Okay, so all right, so part 1, My Log has a message for you. Part 2, this is where I think the the talk about Jupiter and Saturn and everything from the last couple episodes, I think this is where it comes in. Part 2 is called The Stars Turn and a Time Presents Itself.
That's the one I heard. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that title.
Yeah.
Stars Turn, Time Presents Itself.
Yeah. To me, that says everything about the opening the Black Lodge again.
They have a nice ring to them, but they're more revealing than I ever would have thought.
Oh, just hold on. You have not heard anything yet.
Oh, wait. Do I want to know?
No, it's fine. You're fine. Trust me.
It's not like Ben Horn dies in this episode.
yeah. It's kind of like that joke, right? When
the Great Northern Falls,
before the Phantom Menace came out, right? The soundtrack dropped and it said the eulogy of Qui-Gon Jinn, like on the as what.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, well.
All right. So part 3 is called Call for Help. Part 4 is called Brings Back Some Memories.
Okay. Maybe that's the one where they go to Twin Peaks.
Maybe. Part 5 is called Case Files.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
That could be about anything. Part 6 is called Don't Die.
Comma, Ben Horn. No.
No.
That's going to be the running joke now. When does Ben Horn die?
Part 7. This is the one that shocks me the most. Part 7. It's called There's a Body All Right.
Okay.
So does that mean another body wrapped in plastic coming up or what?
I think I heard a little bit about there being some body somewhere that something was shot, and I don't think I heard too
Well,
much.
I think people would be a little bit surprised if there wasn't someone who died in the series. So part 8, the last one we have for tonight is called Got a Light. So I mean they're revealing, but they don't really tell you what it's about.
No,
but I mean things like my log has a message for you. That's pretty blunt.
Yeah.
You know, I think the other one too about the stars turn and time presents itself. That says everything to me about, you know, Jupiter and Saturn and the stars aligning and all that stuff. Yeah. That's why I'm thinking that Agent Cooper might get out of the lodge relatively early. And of course, the other part of me, the devilish part of me, says Agent Cooper doesn't get out by episode 4. Laura does, and that
would be an interesting twist. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that could happen. I can't even wrap my head around predictions. But now there was one thing. I don't know. This is another spoilery thing that people were saying. No, that's not true. That's just somebody trolling or whatever. But there was like a rumor on IMDb. I don't know if I should say anything about it. But another podcast I listened to, they're like, we heard this. We're going to put it at the end as a little bumper, blah, 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 blah. And then, like, you know, they did a little space and they said it. So I'll say the same thing, I guess. And I was like, do I want to listen to it? Do I not? And they were like, this is something we're concerned about happening. So we're going to, you know. So, all right. So what it was apparently somebody on IMDb or something said Showtime. This was back last year. I missed it, apparently. And they thought something in the new trailer suggested that maybe this was the case. Apparently, they're saying, okay, well, Showtime execs were upset with the show and Lynch when the footage came in and they watched it because, according to this person, it begins with like the first 10 minutes of the show. There's like a really graphic murder of like a prostitute. That's how the show like begins. So I was like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like, yes, it's Lynch to kind of, you know, throw the, you know, like the axe on the TV and firewalk me or something. But it seems, I don't know if I could, like, he's already kind of done the like perverse sort of slap in the face, cold jolt thing in that way. I feel like if he is going to do it again, because he always does that somehow, I feel like starting the show that way. And also just when people describe it that way of like, kill part, like that's the most like generic sort of crime thing you can have, you know, is like, and then, you know, the serial killer viciously killed a prostitute in a graphic scene. Like it doesn't quite sound like what he would do, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing.
And if it would be, I would assume it would be Cooper who does it if that was how it began. But
okay, so for the first episode, there's a little bit of feedback here. Yeah, so. Showtime says that for the first episode, the advisory is adult content, adult language, violence, brief nudity. So violence is third.
Oh, did they rank it based on what?
Usually.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And it doesn't say graphic violence, it just says violence.
So that's reassuring for those who don't want it to begin that way, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to begin like The Killer Inside Me, or like Irreversible, where it's like, you know, just someone
just something about didn't like in the sense that it's Lynch slapping everyone in the face after a week of like, we're going back to the land of cherry pie in the woods. Isn't this great? I kind of get it, but even that feels a little obvious at this point, you know. It's just like
I can't see them even beginning it like Wild at Heart, you know, Cooper beating.
Yeah, that's another good comparison. Yeah, but then I mean, so now you're almost convincing me, but the other way that it is going to happen. But yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, would you be a little bit like Really? If it begins with
that's
another, not just that, but if it just began with another body wrapped in plastic, roll, you know.
Well, definitely not that. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
definitely
don't.
want to see that. How did he begin his other? I mean, lately a lot of his movies begin with abstraction.
Right.
Mulholland Drive, you've got the jitterbug with the people dissolving in and out.
Mm.
How did Lost Highway begin? Lost Highway began kind of straightforwardly, but Inland Empire, you've got all the
Well,
weird
it begins with Fred Madison lighting a cigarette in his apartment after.
Yeah, that's not, and you got the what's the name is dead. Dick Laurent is dead.
Mm.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty straightforward opening for a not so straightforward movie. But Inland Empire too, you got the whole weird abstract montage, and then it kind of starts to coalesce into something with the Laura Dern. So he does like to begin with those sort of abstractions. So I wonder if it'll begin that way or if it'll begin more straightforward. I think to an extent he's going to go back to his Blue Velvet.
Do you think this begins in Twin Peaks, or do you think it begins somewhere else and we journey to Twin Peaks?
I feel like it's got to begin somewhere else, but I could be totally wrong. That's my gut. My gut says it's going to begin somewhere else. Yeah, we should do this now. Do prediction kind of things, because this is it. This is the last chance going to have to ever.
Okay, so Showtime says that this takes place in several different places in the country and possibly the world. I will throw it out as well that I think that's also not going to take place all in the same time. I think we're going to be going back and forth.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree.
Yeah.
I think another idea I had, somebody mentioned this, Frost mentioned actually in Secret History, there's this weird throwaway line where it says, ever since something or other in the Black Forest of Germany, and then parentheses, it says, where many real events happened that inspired the Grimm brothers fairy tales, or something like that. And I just thought for a second, like, man, that would be so much fun if they somehow went like X-Files, like it would be a little X-Filesy and a little out of, especially Lynch's sort of phase. But as a kid, I used to love like fairy tales and Hansel and Gretel and all the creepy stories out in the woods. Surprised I ended up being a Twin Peaks fan, but like that would be fun if somehow they were in Germany, like looking up lodge phenomena there that somehow ties into some of the old fairy tales. That's my like pet, totally ridiculous hope that would happen. That would be a lot of fun to me.
What do you think? What do you think the role of Denise is going to be in this show?
Isn't she like a lawyer or something, or a judge?
I know, but what on earth are they going to have her do? Do you think it's going to be just like a small little thing, or do you think it's going to be a Cooper on trial or something?
Oh yeah. Cooper on trial. That's a Frost thing.
Yeah.
Cooper on trial. He would love that. It would be a little like The Prisoner. I don't want to give too much. Have you seen The Prisoner?
Not for a long time.
Yeah. I don't want to give away for the viewers, but yeah, there's a trial-ish thing at some point. It's got a little shade of Alice in Wonderland type, absurdity. I could totally see Frost doing that, and it would be interesting to see how Lynch handles it. I think he did shoot a court scene once. I think only once, because I can't think of
in Lost Highway.
Yeah, and Martha Nachumson, the author, I think she's the judge in it. Like
really?
Yeah.
Well, I know that Mink Stoll played.
I don't think they ever released the deleted scene, but she was on set interviewing him, and they threw her in. He said, "Okay, you're going to be the judge or something." I would get a huge kick out of that.
Yeah, because I remember hearing that Mink Stoll played the forewoman of the jury.
I get now. This is ringing a bell. Like I read something about it recently, somewhere, and I can't remember where, or maybe I heard it on a podcast. Everything blurs together now.
I was saying last night that Lost Highway, Elephant Man, and Straight Story are now the only 3 films that Lynch has made that have not had the deleted scenes released.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Eraserhead, I feel like there's a whole, they've released a few, but there was a whole.
They can't find it.
Right? Yeah, that's tragic.
Yeah.
He's like, I think we know where it is, but would have to like spend months digging through a gigantic trash heap and land somewhere to find them or something.
Right.
But that's interesting. Another thing I realized recently, and you could definitely help me with this if I'm wrong about this. Wild at Heart includes actors from every single Lynch film except, I believe, for Mulholland Drive. I can't think of anybody who's in Mulholland Drive who's in Wild at Heart. Every other Lynch film, there's a connection. But I can't, yeah.
Yeah, because because Scott Coffey didn't get involved with him until Lost Highway. So
yeah, okay.
So he's not in there.
Monty Montgomery was involved with the movie, but I don't think he's in it.
No, he produced it. I'll tell you an amazing movie though that incorporates a lot of different Lynch people in it, and that is the masterpiece known as Silent Night, Deadly Night 3.
Really?
Directed by Monty Hellman of Two-Lane Blacktop fame.
Yeah.
It stars, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Laura Elena Haring,
Mm-hmm.
Eric DeRay, and Richard Beamer.
Nice.
Right? There's your And I always thought that in 1994 when what was his name? John Dahl directed Red Rock West.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching that going, God, he must be a huge Lynch fan because he's got Dennis Hopper from Blue Velvet, right? Lara Flynn Boyle from Twin Peaks and Nicolas Cage from Wild at Heart.
I found out I'm gonna pull up with the character studies that I've been doing. I look up the actors' work, and occasionally I'll look up like the movies and see if other Twin Peaks actors were in the movie they were in.
Mm-hmm.
But with Grace Zabriskie, I found out, and I've never seen this movie, but the Gus Van Sant movie, what is it? The Cowgirls one? Cowgirls Don't Cry. Am I making that
Even
up?
Cowgirls Get the Blues?
Yes, yeah. That has an amazing, I'm trying to pull it up right now. Oh, that was not what I wanted to pull up. Come on. I'm trying to pull it up now. It had, I think, 6 different Lynch actors scattered throughout the cast. And mostly from Twin Peaks, actually. They were from, like, everything. All right, here we go. Cowgirls. God.
And while you're doing that, what do you think about this idea that David Nevins, the head of Showtime, said that David Lynch's Gordon Cole plays a key role in this new series?
I mean, God, he always kind of played a key. He's small, but
well, I mean, he is the first person we see in Fire Walk with Me.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, maybe he had maybe something unusual. Maybe he dies. Or kills him. Can you imagine?
He gets a screwdriver to the stomach.
Kills David Lynch. That would be. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that.
Well, I would just hope that maybe Bob Cooper has a giant spice worm come out and just eat him. That would be amazing.
Yeah, they've got to have a Dune crossover too.
Yeah.
Okay, we got for Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. We've got John Hurt from The Elephant Man, Crispin Glover from Wild at Heart and Hotel Room, Sean Young from Dune, Heather Graham, Twin Peaks, obviously. Plus, William S. Burroughs is in it, and he was originally supposed to play Dougie Milford, which would have been
wow.
And it's got Grace Zabriskie. And then also, actually, Seinfeld, the episode with the Marble Rye, is obviously, it's got Grace Zabriskie and Mark Frost because they played Susan's parents.
I mean, Warren Frost.
Oh, yeah, Warren Frost. Played Susan's parents. But it's also got Don Amendolia, who played Emery Battis. And, of course, the Marble Rye lady is Mrs. Tremont.
Mm-hmm.
So, that one there was one other one. That was basically it. But, yeah, I was like, wow, what a...
Well, the biggest one, of course, is People Under the Stairs. I mean, casting Big Ed and Nadine together.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I still haven't seen that either. I gotta watch that. Something, especially now that we know they're both gonna be up in the the new series.
Right. So, all right, we're gonna conclude this because Joel needs to get some sleep. I know that. So before you go, I just have to ask you: we're 5 days away. What are your hopes for this new series? And do you have any fears about this new series?
I think hopes are, I just want it to be, I want a lot of new. I want a lot of just.
I thought you were going to say you want a lot of nudity. I was like, okay.
Oh, no, well, it's showtime. I'm not surprised. No, I want it to be like stuff we just haven't seen before. Like, to me, the most exciting aspect of this isn't that it's new Twin Peaks, it's that it's a new David Lynch like film, basically, which we haven't gotten for 10 years now. So 11 years now, actually. So that's my biggest hope, is just totally new sensations. Like, I want to feel what I felt the first time I saw like Bob crawl over the couch, or like Cooper enter the red room, or just all these things that were like totally new sensations at the time, and they've become familiar since, and that can be good. You learn new things, you get a new relationship to it, but you do lose that original sense you get, especially with David Lynch, of experiencing his world for the first time. So that's my biggest hope. Biggest fear, I don't think I'm not that afraid they're retreat or whatever. I just don't see them doing that. And some of the things I think I was a little nervous about, I'm not really anymore. I'll
tell you what I'm afraid of the most is I'm afraid of nothing having to do with the show. I'm afraid of just having to deal with the internet, and like having half the internet praising it and half the internet thinking it's the worst thing they ever saw, and my Twitter and my email being inundated with everybody having just obsessive, crazy opinions either way. I'm not ready for that, because I've never experienced Twin Peaks in a social media environment.
That's an interesting point, because I feel like when they announced the new show, one of the things I was most excited about was, at that time I was going back and looking back at the old alt TV Twin Peaks and watching people react to it in real time together. And I thought, that's going to be a blast. That's going to be really fun. And now I feel like I've spent so much time in sort of the social media world of Twin Peaks that now I'm almost looking more forward to just the more isolated experience of just watching it myself and whatever. But I mean, that still will be something new. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know how and I'm not a big TV watcher, so I don't experience it that much at all. Like, really, the last thing that I even bothered to kind of like write about and keep up with what people were saying while it was on was the second season of True Detective, which obviously, was ended up getting a pretty negative reception, which was interesting. But yeah, so I'm not that whole culture of kind of the recaps and the rehash and the what do we say today and what's going to happen tonight and this and that. It seems like it could be fun and annoying, and I haven't really been that involved with it yet. So it's going to be interesting to kind of participate in that. And I definitely plan to write about each episode after it happens, but I don't think it's going to be like a trying to figure it out perspective, more of like how, or just a recap either.
Or your emotional journey watching it.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm kind of going to be aiming to do. We'll see what I feel like writing. Maybe it will end up seeing something else, but I think what I'm interested in documenting is what it feels like to watch new Twin Peaks. Because the one thing I always kick myself about a little is I didn't write down my reactions the first time through, except for Fire Walk with Me. All the other ones I just was like watching. Got to the end, kind of, it was like, now I wonder, like, gee, like, who did I think killed Laura Palmer? Like, I don't even remember, like, did I think, what did I expect, and I don't know that I'd be doing that much predictions or stuff with this, but I would be explore different ideas, and it'll be fun to kind of have that, because that's the same thing we were talking about before. It's like, we're in the only moment that we're ever going to have of not knowing what's next. But every week we will be, to a certain extent, in that, because something will happen and we'll wonder, where's this going to lead, and all of that. So,
and that's my biggest hope, though, is that I don't really care which way Frost and Lynch take us in this new series. I just want to feel like they're confident in this story, and not, I don't want to, I've heard a lot of fan theories or even my own about like what could happen next. I want to have all of ours blown out of the water by whatever they give us. I want to feel like they really
wants to be correct.
Well, not just that. I don't want them to just kind of half-ass this, and I know they won't. But that's always the fear, is that we'll just give them this. And I really want to believe Kyle when he says, this is going to be unlike anything you've ever seen, where Robert Knepper says every episode is going to be an amazing gift to the fans. Like, that's huge promises to give us. And we all have high expectations.
Yeah, that's almost like too high, because I can't, no matter what, it's going to alienate or annoy some people. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast.
Well, considering that even the look of it so far, at least what we've seen, it doesn't look like Twin Peaks. It doesn't look like Fire Walk with Me. It looks like Inland Empire meets Twin Peaks in a new style, even more new style,
Yeah. And one thing the Red Room looks a little weird to me, something about it.
Well, some people, like James, they think that it's all CGI, and I don't.
Okay, all right. I was a little worried about that. Yeah, I got that vibe a little just from a brief shot, and I was like, that would be disappointing. I don't think I could call that my greatest fear, but yeah.
Well, he did use computer editing for the missing pieces. There were some things in those, the way he edited those, that wasn't like that originally. Like when
manipulation, I don't think did he use to actually create a whole digital environment? To me,
right.
I'm not a big CGI person in general, to be honest, and it doesn't seem to fit the vibe of Twin Peaks to me. Like, the texture of Twin Peaks is so important. When you're in that Red Room, there's a tangibility to those curtains and that furniture that's to make it like a video game background. That's just sort of I'm sorry if that offends,
So you don't want CGI Frank Silva running around.
That's my biggest fear, but I can't imagine they do that.
Listen, as long as they do it better than in episode 14, which is an amazing episode.
Mm-hmm.
But when Leland is standing at the mirror and they do that dissolve of a bog going, that's awful.
Lynch does that a lot. He did that with Lost Highway, where he has a mystery man's face just floating on
Trish Arquette.
So I don't mind that because it's so obvious. It's almost like weird art, almost more than bad effects, or I almost wouldn't mind bad effects. I don't want good. I don't want good to the point of being up to a professional standard, but not good enough to actually look good.
Like on the Blu-ray, in the final episode when Cooper's going from room to room, and Laura comes out and she's like, I'm Maddie, right? And then she disappears. On the Blu-ray, man, they went back, they remastered it. It's beautiful. If you go back and you watch the original airing of it, when she dissolves and basically disappears, you can see the three shots being cut together in that dissolve, because the image jumps with every move. So when she starts to dissolve, the image jumps, and then when she's gone, the image jumps back. So you can tell they didn't spend a lot of time in post-production for that episode. But then when you watch the Blu-ray, it's like, wow, it's so beautiful, it's crystal clear.
Yeah,
they went back and fixed it all. So
interesting. That's cool.
But yeah, I just can't believe it. I keep pinching myself. I cannot believe we're here. I remember, I'm sure you do too, 5 years ago, when there were rumors that Twin Peaks was going to come back, and Jennifer Lynch and other people were going, no, no, it's not happening. Get it out of your heads. Right. And here we are, 5 days away.
I'm in a weird place, and I've been more or less this way since they announced it. There's never been this flood of excitement. It's just been okay, this is happening. Wow, I'm surprised. It never really sank in. And I kind of like that, because I feel like when I sit down to watch it, there's not going to be a hype for me. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be this sense of maybe I'm wrong, and in the last day or two it'll emerge, but I don't think so. I think it's not going to be real until it's real, and then I'm going to be in that moment. I think that's the perfect way to do it, rather than sort of, dressed like the people dressed up outside waiting for, a new Star Wars movie, dressed as Boba Fett or whatever. I think it's
you're not going to dress up as the burlesque log lady? Come on.
Yeah, as Nadine with the cheerleader outfit or whatever. so that's a good place to be. I think I don't mind being that way. It is kind of funny to me. It's like it's for all the excitement about Twin Peaks and looking forward to it and everything. I've never been like sweaty with excitement about this. It's just been like kind of a calm, like, oh, this is coming. This is going to be cool. This is going to provide a lot of opportunity to talk about Twin Peaks and this and that. But I know once it actually happens, it's going to be a totally different thing. And I guess one, it's not as big of a comparison, but would probably be the missing pieces. Like when that was coming, I was like more excited for like the Between Two Worlds thing. I was like, okay, I've read the deleted scenes. I know what's in them. You know, it'll be interesting. It'll be a curio. But then as I watched it, there was some stuff that was just like, oh, wow, this is like a whole new way of seeing Twin Peaks.
Well, when you read that ending scene in the script of Cooper saying, you know, I haven't brushed my teeth yet. You read that in the script and you go, okay. But it's directed so well in the scene that you're just like, wow, like that's not at all the way it reads on the page.
That's the thing. And I think that's why I'm glad I'm in this, and I'm sort of in this mind frame, because I think that's in accordance with what I said earlier, which is like the thing I'm most looking forward to is like new David Lynch. Like you're only in new David Lynch when you're in new David Lynch. Like you're not like, you know, as much fun as we have talking about Twin Peaks and all this stuff, there's always this difference between sort of talking about Twin Peaks. It's like sort of warming yourself by a fire versus being in the fire, which sounds like a terrible analogy because nobody wants to be in the fire. But it kind of works with
Laura
Lynch.
does.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, like Lynch does. Obviously, he enjoys that being right in the center of that burn. But yeah, so you know, you can talk about Lynch, you can think about it, you can write about it, but then when you're there in that, it's like you know, oh, I was coming back from the acid trip and writing about it, but this is what it was really like. Oh shit, here we go. I'm ready for that feeling. So.
Well, so am I, and we, like I keep saying, we're 5 days away. It's pretty amazing. But Joel, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's kind of an impromptu thing, but I'm so glad you had the time to come on.
It's going to be a busy week, just leading up to Twin Peaks, not even because of Twin Peaks.
But it's kind of cool, right, that it's busy?
Yeah.
Don't you think? Because it will eat up the time.
It's going to add to the sense of excitement, too, of sort of, you know, doing all these different things up and and I'm going to be in New York, which is going to be interesting because you know, just I don't know, it's going to be an interesting place to watch Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
First episode drop. And there's going to be stuff going on. I know people have been talking about viewing parties and this. I wouldn't go to that. I wouldn't go to a viewing party to watch the first episode. No.
I don't mind watching it on repeat viewings with people, but that first viewing is going to be like a religious ceremony, and there's going to be no talking, nobody around me. It's going to be pure meditation on towards the TV.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be staying with a friend there who's never seen Twin Peaks, so I don't know if they're going to watch. I believe they have Showtime. That's my hope. I got to buy the app or whatever. I got to get the program.
It's not that much. It's about $10.99 a month.
Yeah, and I got to get it soon because they're going to drop the second two that night at what is it? So the show starts, what is it, 9 or 10?
Probably 9, but that's East Coast, so we'll get it 6 o'clock on our app.
Well, I'm in New Hampshire now, so I'll be
okay. Well, then you'll get it.
I'll be in New York when that happens anyway. So
right. Okay.
So 9 is the premiere.
Right. Goes to 11.
Is when they're dropping supposedly the next 2 episodes.
Correct.
Although I'm gonna try and write about the first one right away, just my impression, and then watch the next 2 and probably write about those and publish those the next day, because I'm not gonna wait a week to or 2 weeks or whatever to.
Right.
So actually, we're not after that first block of 4. We're not gonna get fresh stuff for 3 weeks, right? Because 2 weeks later they're airing.
No. Because the next week they're going to play episodes 3 and 4. So
Memorial Day weekend they're actually going to play them. Okay.
Right. So we just got to wait. Yeah, we got a week off. So.
Okay, and they're running both of them, right? 3
and
4 on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
All right, yeah.
But you guys watching, this guy right here, Mr. Joel Bocko, who goes by Lost in the Movies on Twitter, and his blog.
Unified finally.
Film School Rejects today declared that his video series on Twin Peaks, Journey Through Twin Peaks, is the most important visual essays done on the subject on the internet.
Nice.
That's
by
come on. It's awesome.
He's written some amazing stuff and done, and actually I think he's got a video coming this week, so it's very complimentary, especially to hear that from him. And he just published a book which I haven't bought yet, but I'm meaning to. It's like a collection of all of his Twin Peaks writing. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but H. Perry Horton. Check it out.
Definitely. So again, I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I want to thank all of you guys for tuning into these videos and supporting me and supporting this channel. We really greatly appreciate it. And yeah, 5 days to go. It's going to be an amazing time. I keep saying, I keep pinching myself. I can't believe this is even happening. So,
one thing actually I'll say that interesting I'm going to try and do beforehand is I downloaded the Secret Diary audiobook that's actually read by Cheryl Lee that just came out.
Which kind of upsets me that it's only an Audible. I wish I could get a CD of it.
I got the app, and I got it way too far ahead of time, but they say you can still, so I did the 1 month trial and canceled, but they say you'll still get the whatever you pre-ordered. So hopefully, but yeah, I think that would be an interesting, especially if it turns out that the series goes, has a lot of like Laura stuff and a lot of like, just sort of like psychological stuff too, I think, because that's the thing. It's like there's such a psychological core to the series, just like with Mulholland Drive or something, that sometimes gets sort of overlooked with all the different narrative beats, the mythology and all of that. But it'll be interesting to listen to that and go into the new episode. And it may give me sort of an interesting path into the new episode, because that'll probably be the last Twin Peaks piece of media, I consume before, if I can even listen. I'm sure it's pretty long, and it's sort of like, I'm going to be so busy. I don't know. It's going to be hard to find the time to listen to it. But
we're going to get season 3, and then we're going to get the final dossier.
Or the return. We can't call it season 3 anymore.
Okay,
right?
The return. But in my heart, it's season 3. But then we get the final dossier. It makes me wonder if this is it. I mean, Lynch and Frost have kind of said that this new season does kind of close out. So, I mean, I guess they could continue if they wanted to, but then with something called the final dossier, I think we're heading towards an ending here.
I don't know too. It's like, I'm a little disappointed the final dossier is coming out in October. I would like to have it a few weeks before the finale, because I feel like at that point we're going to know all the stuff that's going to be in it anyways. Catch up on that, read that, and then have the last episode of Twin Peaks be the last piece of Twin Peaks we get.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure the book will be fun and interesting and illuminating and maybe even like Mark Frost's masterpiece, but it's still like Twin Peaks is the visual media, Lynch directing, Frost writing, and all of these elements coming together. It would be great if chronologically, the last episode was the last piece. Also, somebody was saying recently, now this is almost making the reverse point, that Lynch had been saying there's no plans to make more, and now he's saying I can't talk about that or something, which suggests maybe there are. I don't know how I feel about that either, because I feel like this is great, but if it becomes a regular thing of like now you're getting more Twin Peaks, it kind of takes away the specialness a little bit.
Right. I don't want Homeland season 6 for Twin Peaks, where you know what I mean, where it's like another season.
Exactly. Like, so I'd kind of like it to. I want Lynch to keep working, although now he said he's done with film or whatever. But I would love to see him keep working and keep doing projects. But I would love to see Twin Peaks kind of put to bed with this.
Well, one thing that I always loved was reading in one of the Twin Peaks books that came out in 1990, that when they signed the contracts at ABC, Kyle MacLachlan signed. And I know this is like stuff that happens a lot, today, but back then it was kind of a new thing. Kyle MacLachlan signed a contract to do Twin Peaks for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And we got 1.5, 2, I guess. Can you imagine what season 5 of Twin Peaks would have been like in 1995? That's insane. Yeah. I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have happened. So it's a moot point anyways. But it's hard. It's like,
but the times were changing back then. I can't imagine post grunge and all this stuff to have Twin Peaks still going around in 1995. You know, it just
yeah, it's weird, and I feel like it would have. It's almost like it couldn't last as what Lynch kind of wanted it to be.
Mhm.
I think it would have gone more in like an X-Files-y direction, kind of, and become more of a conventional sort of TV show, as it already kind of tries to do in the second half of the show at times. This is what we got is kind of more interesting in that it's this weird combination of totally different impulses, you know, at war with each other, and then they kind of add up to this big thing. But this is going to be a hell of a conclusion, I guess.
So I'm assuming that when this is all over and done with and you have some perspective, you will do a new video series on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be a continuation of the other one. It'll be like I did 28 chapters on YouTube, so it'll be like, you know, chapter 29 probably leading into the new series, and something on the secret history, and then into the new series. I think my sense, I really have not even like a broad outline of what it could end up being, because I don't know the show. I think it's going to probably jump around more. I think I'll probably still use chronological hook because that worked for the rest of the videos, but I'll probably go outside of Twin Peaks more. I think with the video series, I build that a little slowly. Like it sort of starts very much within the episodes themselves and what's happening, and then you broaden a little and talk about Lynch and Frost, and then I bring in some other movie clips and things, you know, that influenced it, and sort of get broader and broader as it goes along. And I think at this point, it would be even more so. There'd probably be a lot of things with other Lynch films, and like maybe other films in general, just maybe even sort of broader questions, spiritual things, political things, kind of bringing in. I think it would probably be more expansive in a way, just because that seems to be sort of where they were going anyways. And that's sort of, you know, yeah, it'll be interesting. Yes, who knows what it'll
See,
look like.
I would love to do what you do, these kind of video essays, but I'm terrified of YouTube and Google just like saying you're using copyrighted images and rip it down. So
yeah, I mean, because you do a lot of other stuff that isn't that, so you'd almost maybe want to create a separate channel for it just to be on the safe side, you know.
Yeah, because I've had just issues with YouTube in the past where they think something's copyrighted and it's not, and it's just it's a big hassle. And I was just like, I watch what you do, and I'm just like, oh, I want to do it, but I don't want to wake up one day and find out you've created copyright material and your whole channel's ripped down.
Yeah, I've had that, but the thing is that people don't realize, and unfortunately, with the FCC and Trump and everything the way it is now, this probably going to get worse depending how things go, because they have they're very much on the side of the big sort of the corporations, that because it's not YouTube taking it down. I mean, it's YouTube taking it down, but it's always at the behest of a copyright claimant. But the thing is, as it exists now, at present, really, there's way more power in the corner of the, what would you call it, the
content creator,
or not the creator of the original content, but the creator of the new content, you know, using the older content. There's a lot more power in fair use than people realize. And actually, and not just in terms of the legal rights, but even in practical terms, because the companies usually don't want to, I don't think they've ever gone to court to actually settle one of these things. So if you push back, especially if you have a reasonable fair use claim, and it gets more complicated if you're making money off of it. You know, with this, I kind of just cast that aside. And now, as I was saying to you, like Showtime and CBS are actually making money off of my videos, not me. So, you know, that I just kind of was like, fine, I'm not making these for profit anyways. So I'm not gonna die on that hill. But yeah, so when you're monetizing it, it's a little different. It gets a little harder, but even then, there's still things, you know, to consider. But yeah, like, so my encouragement is, anybody wants to do it is do it and read up on fair use. There's like web pages and stuff out there, and just sort of know what your rights are and what you can do and how to sort of deal. Like in my case, it was funny because I was contacting Kevin B. Lee, who's been doing video essays since 2007. Like he's basically invented video essays. Like even before Tony Show and all these people were doing them, he was like, how, you know, YouTube was, I think, like 6 months old, and he was like, okay, what if I take film clips and I'm like narrating over them, and then started getting it more complex and like all the different approaches that you see. So anyways, I'm off on a tangent, but this guy, I emailed him and was like asking advice, and I got to a point where he was like, wow, I've never even dealt with that level of it before. I was like, oh, wow. So they actually, CBS actually contacted me and set up like a phone call with like a lawyer and everything, of like somebody with them telling me, you know, because initially they wanted me to take it down, and I sort of held my ground and I made my points, and I got, you know, credit where due. They didn't have to make it that, you know, they could have made it much more difficult, even if legally they didn't have as much ground to stand on. They have a lot of power. They could have made it more difficult. I think for whatever reason, their policy was more like, we want to accommodate fans and make them, you know, which is a wise business strategy. And it obviously worked out well for them because, you know, now they've got trailers before all the videos and all this stuff. So it's like, so, you know, yeah, so long story short, you and everybody else who wants to do it, I think I say go for it and just know your rights and know the whole context of it. And you can actually do quite a bit with it. More than they want you to believe. Put it that way.
Well, sounds good. I got some feedback.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go. I gotta go.
Hang on one second. Hang on. Let me just sum this up. So you guys, hang on. I hate feedback. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, share the video out with others. I really appreciate it. You guys taking the time to watch this. Joel, thank you. Have a wonderful night. And we will all see you next time. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.